Hi everyone. Ricky, greatly oversells me. I can be a salty tech dude if I want to be. So today we're going to be talking about load testing. I just want to show our hands really quick. Who has done load testing before? Hands up. All right, so about a quarter of the room, which is good. So we've got a lot of new people here as well. There's a lot of info in here. I just want to say there will be a link at the end to download this. There's some tools and stuff that you guys can use. So, don't feel like you have to write down everything and not absorb anything, because I'm actually going to do a live demo here. Cool. So, Ricky's already done an intro of me. I don't really need to say too much. Again, my name is Robert. I'm a solutions architect for WP Engine, or a solutions engineer. The term doesn't matter. Takeaways from this particular talk that I want you guys to leave with is: 1, have an understanding of what sort of solutions are out there that you can use. 2, why would you do load testing? 3, what do you need? 4, we're going to collectively pray to the demo god, sacrifice some chickens. 5, we're going to do the demo. And then 6, while we're doing the demo, I'm going to talk about how would you prepare to do a load test. And then we'll have a look at it at the end. The degree of difficulty is nerd. So if you guys aren't comfortable with nerd, that's fine. You're not supposed to be, all good. But you might want to look over this again. Cool. So I'm going to just present a scenario. So first, let's say, a lot of people out here, there's probably a few people who are like, I love t-shirts. Let's say you decide you want to start a t-shirt store online. Really cool. You make cool designs like this and you sell them, getting a little bit successful. You're like, I want to boost my sales. Black Friday's coming up. You thought, that's a good idea. I'm just going to jump on the bandwagon, right? Put some crazy special out there, 75% off for 3 seconds, And so while you're doing that, then you find that you have Beyonce and Jay-Z wearing your shirts. You're like, holy crap, this is great. So what happens is this. Bedlam. So everyone goes crazy. They want to buy anything that's on your store. And you're like, sweet, just selling everything, right? You're selling out of all of your stock. And then this happens. And everyone is pissed, right? So what happened? Basically, the problem here is that you've created a great site. You've probably spent lots of time or money on it, if you haven't spent time. And there's some cool features on it, right? It does cool stuff. Maybe there's some things in there where it's like, if you enter the site, it shows you a shirt that you looked at last time. You've gone and chosen some hosting for it, which kind of fits it at the time that you built it, which is fine. It worked great. It's $3 a month. Awesome. Then you decide to do your sales event without telling anyone, and then you get a flood. Okay? You get lots and lots of sales, then your site goes down and you freak out. All right? So what you've essentially done is you've created a highway to begin with. You have no idea how many cars are going to go down it, but this looks like a pretty good highway, right? It's nice and straight. It uses bitumen, not dirt, so it's premium, right? But you don't know how many cars are going to go down it, so you only make it this wide because you're like, it'll be fine. Then this happens, Manila, right? So how do you figure out how many cars do you need to fit onto this highway? Solution is load testing. So a few of you have already done it. We've got some tools up there that you may have heard of: BlazeMeter, LoadStorm, Loader.io, Artillery.io, Load Ninja. I personally like using BlazeMeter, so that's what we're going to be using for this. And there's also an open source tool that BlazeMeter works on that connects with it. Has anyone used any of these tools on here? I'm assuming some people have. We've got one person. Sweet. All right, so there's a lot of new stuff for you guys. Great. Cool. So what's next? Why load test? All right. So obviously, all of us, when we build a site, we want to figure out, okay, how is it going to work, right? So usually when you do testing, it's functional. Does the checkout work? Do you not see other people's carts, right? Are you able to select an item and the price doesn't say $1 million, US when it was supposed to be $1, that sort of stuff. But it doesn't take into account complex situations when you start having a bunch of people rock up on there. And then also, in the real world, when you have a lot of people hitting the site may not react the way that you expect. So that goes on to the next point. Your code can behave differently when it is under load. If a few of you guys have heard of Heisenbugs, you probably know why I'm going bald then, okay? So any changes to code that you've made, okay, you may not have an idea of how it's going to work when you actually put it under stress. And code errors or errors in execution may occur that you had no idea could happen, all right? So it's a bit like this, how do you figure out a Heisenbug? Don't look at it. Thirdly, okay, the reason why you want to perform a load test is because servers, as you all know, are a finite resource. And so they behave differently when you put them under stress. It doesn't just go work, 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 I'm dead, right? So you have to figure out, okay, what is going to actually happen to the server when I start throwing hundreds, thousands, millions of people at it, right? What is going to happen to the CPU load? What is going to happen to I/O throughput? You know, is it going to kill the database? You know, what are the response times going to look like? Okay. Last thing, okay, and this is probably the biggest thing, especially if you're working with any sort of business that has any level of criticality. The cost of failure in these kind of events is exceptionally high. If we take Black Friday as an example, okay, it on average, according to BlazeMeter's own data, costs US $4,700 per minute of downtime during Black Friday per e-commerce store. So that's a lot of money for just 1 minute of downtime, right? And also, if a site takes longer than 6.5 seconds to load, most people are going to leave, right? And that's just as bad as having half downtime, right? And so that, when you compound them, creates what's called a snowball effect. If your site is down and your site is slow, and there is a competitor who is doing a similar offer, they're going to become the incumbent, so they will take your market share. It sounds really ruthless, but that's what happens, right? Cool. So, what do you need? Right. There are two things you want to measure in a load test. One, you want to be able to execute it. Two, then you want to be able to measure it. It's pretty simple, right? But, you know, actually doing it, there are some things you need to prepare for. So, just before we get deeply into it, as I know there are a few people who've not done load testing before, I'm going to use some terms which may kind of get like a little bit confusing. So firstly, scenarios. When I talk about a scenario, we're talking about a script or a template of what a user might do, okay? So this is something that I've already written out in advance. You click on this, 2 seconds later you click on this, that sort of thing. Virtual users or user agents, these are the simulated users, so it's literally my CPU basically creating a virtual user and getting it to do these things. Concurrency, I'm talking about how many people are accessing the site at the same time. And then errors. We don't really need to go into this. 504, 502, 429 errors, they're always bad, okay? They do with rate limiting, they do with the server running out of resources as well. And then the last thing is .yaml. It's just the extension that holds the file with the scenario in it. So it's basically like a text file, you know? Cool. So first thing, execution. Here's some tools that you want to consider when you're talking about executing, all right? First one, Taurus. This is the one that I recommend you start with if you haven't done it before. It is an open source tool that creates the virtual users from the scripts that you've created. The second tool, as I mentioned, is BlazeMeter. That can also execute load tests as well, but you know, if you're going to use it as a free tool, you just use the reporting feature, which is actually super comprehensive, so that's fine. JMeter is a tool that you want to use as well to be able to build and tweak those scenarios. Again, that is free. And then also the BlazeMeter Chrome extension. I typically use that to actually build the base of the user workflow or the user kind of journey, okay? And basically what that allows you to do is you click on some things on Chrome and it records your actions, and so you can replay them over and over again. Cool. The second thing you want to do, as I mentioned, you want to measure the reaction. So what do you need to actually measure? You need to measure the website, and you need to basically measure the tech stack. Okay, so firstly, if you're using GCP or AWS, that's kind of 70–80% of the market out there. I don't use Azure, so I actually don't know the tools. But for GCP and AWS, for GCP you're using Stackdriver, for AWS you're using CloudWatch. That's just monitoring the server. I'll show you a different tool how that does that. OpenNMS is also a really good one to use. That's free and open source, so you can use that as well. You also want to measure the website's performance, and that can be done using New Relic. Okay. Has anyone used New Relic here before? Okay, a few people, awesome. Basically what it does is it just measures how quickly when you click something it does it, okay, or brings back the response. Then you want to also do some front-end monitoring. This is perhaps the most understandable one. So something like Pingdom, Uptime Robot. I love FreshPing, okay, so you might want to use that as well. They're all free. They just measure whether the website is up. FreshPing actually has some additional functionality where it also measures the response time of the website as well. And then if you're comfortable using command line, you want to also look at HTOP and SAR. So these are tools that I'll show you later, but basically it just gives you the raw data behind the server. Cool. Some caveats, and some of these are pretty obvious, okay? One, don't load test on your production site, okay? Because that's your live site, you know? Two, you don't want to load test on a shared environment either. There's too much variable performance on a shared environment. Other people are using the resource as well. And so if you get like one great result one day, you might get a poor result the other day because someone else is doing something. So it's too noisy to actually do it in. It's pointless, you know? If you're going to launch your site onto a shared environment, just do it, right? You don't need to worry about load testing. Third, don't do it without telling your support and security team. I get this all the time, okay? I'll be sitting there, I get a phone call, and they'll be like, oh, my site went down. I'm like, what did you do? I just threw 5,000 users at it. I'm like, what do you think would happen? All right, last thing. Okay, so on a site, you don't want to, or on a site or web application that you don't have permission to test on. Because effectively, what you're doing when you're doing a load test is DOSing it, okay? So this is a dangerous tool. If you have someone you don't like, you don't want to use it on their site. Well, maybe you want to, but you know, like, this can take down their site, okay? That's bad advice. Okay, so let's do stuff. And my screen's gonna go crazy. Okay, so what I'm actually doing is I'm actually going to do a load test on WP Engine's own site. This is not their live site. They will fire me if I did it on the live site. So this is actually a copy of the live site that I've put onto its own small dedicated server, okay? I've also got some fresh ping, uptime monitoring on here. And this also actually measures the response time of the site every minute. So if I refresh this, it says last updated 10:46, 11:35. Now you can see it responds in about 400 milliseconds. It's actually based in the US, so that's not too bad. And then I've got Zabbix, which is basically the same thing as Stackdriver, CloudWatch, or OpenNMS. It just shows you what the server is actually doing. Okay, so this is literally what the CPUs are doing, nothing at the moment. Okay, this one here is HTOP. This is what I was talking about before, isn't giving you raw data on the server itself. So let's do this. All right, I'm gonna clear this, and I'm gonna run stuff. Okay, actually, before I do that, let me show you really quickly how you would record. So you've got the extension here. This is the BlazeMeter extension here. It's super simple to use, so if you're a beginner and you're just learning how to do this, ideally you want to run multiple scenarios, but you just want to start with one if you're new to it, okay? And the way that this tool works is you just press record, okay? And then anything that you click on, anything that loads up, it's actually going to record that activity and save it into a file for you, okay? I'm just going to do that and go back to the home page. Cool, done. And then I just press stop, and I just want to now save it, okay? And that's it. It's as simple as that. What you can do from there is you can open up something like, for example, Sublime, and that's where you can kind of edit it. I have this set up with multiple scenarios, okay? If you just have one scenario, you can just dump it into here, but here you can actually see down the bottom how you want to report it. So you can see that it's pushing all of the info through to BlazeMeter, so you can see the module, it says BlazeMeter, and then it's also defining what the project is called, what sort of what the test is called, etc. So really simple stuff. It's very easy to use YAML. And then last thing, if you're going to be tweaking any of the scenarios, you want to use, as I said, JMeter. This is what JMeter looks like. You can define things like, for example, where it caches things. You can define the base URL, so you can change that. And then you can define the actual step up. So for here, you can see, I want, for this particular scenario, a target concurrency of 45 users. That means 45 users are using the site at all times with this particular scenario. But I don't want it to hit 45 all at once. And so you can see that over a period of 8 minutes, it kind of ramps up sort of 5 or 6 users at a time. And then it hits peak at around about 8 minutes and then holds for 2 seconds. Super simple to use. It's just it's an extension for the JMeter tool. Okay, cool. So now I've done enough talking. Let me actually do something and run it. Cool. And you're going to see it pull it up. Okay. So who here, by the way, uses command line regularly? About half the room. Awesome. Okay, so there's only a very simple amount of commands. I'm going to include them in the presentation. So if you want to experiment on this yourself to kind of try and load test your own sites, you can do so. Okay. So while that's running, I'll show you more in a sec. Let's go back to the presentation. Last time I did this presentation at a WordPress meetup, we had to sit there and stare at it for 10 minutes. So I'm not going to do that to you. Cool. All right. All right, great. This is what Taurus looks like, by the way, but I'll show you a live demo in a sec. Okay, cool. So while that's running, let's talk about how you actually prepare for a load test before you actually do a load test. Well, hang on, BlazeMeter. Okay. Okay, so while it's doing that, let's talk about how you prepare for a load test, the things that you need to actually do before you actually do one. All right, first thing, okay, you only really want to do a major load test. You can load test, do small load tests throughout your development cycle, but you really only want to do a major load test when you've kind of done a major deployment. You've kind of finalized a bunch of features, you have an event that you're trying to meet, and you're going to be you're going to locking down the code before that, okay? So you're at that point, that's when you want to test it. And before that, you want to make sure you're able to do all the optimizations that you can before you want to get yourself a true result, okay? So, motto, do as much as you can before doing major testing. I should put major there, but it's fine. Okay, you want to decide what type of test you want to do, and that depends on the event that you're targeting, okay? First one is spike testing. We're talking about online events where everyone needs to hit the site all at once and then they kind of leave, okay? So for example, you want to understand how the website responds to a massive spike in load and then how does it recover if it actually hits that limit. The second one you want to do is like a stress test, a little bit more long form, okay? You want to understand how the website handles like consistent, very high loads over a relatively short period of time. For example, like a flash sale, that's kind of similar to what I'm going to be doing with this one. And then finally, the last type of test is a soak test. And this is basically to understand what your server will do over a very long period of time at high load without actually going over what its limits are. Okay, so for example, something like a Black Friday event, which is going to last like 3-4 days, you want to go into Cyber Monday, right? Cool. You also want to create realistic scenarios. I'm a tech. There's a bunch of techs here. We have no idea what people do to the site, okay? We don't know how people interact with it. We're not marketing people, right? So involve your marketing people, involve possibly like salespeople, that sort of thing. Find out what they know about how people interact with the site, okay? And use their knowledge to build the scenarios, realistic scenarios, real percentages, so you can get an accurate representation of what's actually going to be happening to your site when you're hitting these events, okay? So here's some questions you want to ask. Where and how do the users access the site? What do they do on the site? How do they arrive? Do they arrive in waves? Do they kind of dribble? Do they arrive all at once? How long do they stay? Okay, cool. You also want to understand your KPIs. Okay, and when I mean KPIs, I'm not saying you want to understand the way that your website can perform at its best. No, you want to understand what the limits are for your website at its worst. What are you willing to accept as a reasonable user experience? And again, this is something you can discuss with your marketing team about, okay? But you want to basically look at things like, for example, response time, you want to look at error rates, you want to look at percentage of failed transactions, you want to look at number of transactions per second. AptX score is something, if you use New Relic, it makes sense, but effectively it's a heuristic marker of how people perceive the site. But the idea is you want to understand the baseline, okay? And when do you go under it? Okay. And then when you're creating these scenarios, obviously, nothing's perfect the first time around. If it was, then I would be a billionaire, you know? You want to do small-scale testing first. So you test out those scenarios, test out the tech stack you're running them on. If you're using cloud services to do it, like for example, serverless tech or things like that, you want to test out how it's going to work on them. You want to figure out whether the scenario is going to break if you start throwing it at the site. You want to also figure out whether the tech stack you're using is sufficient. Is that going to create the bottleneck where it's actually not going to be able to send through enough people to get a realistic representation of a live event? Okay? Cool. All right, and then finally, the last thing, and this is probably the most important question once you've done all of these other steps before that, when is the tipping point? When does the server actually die, okay? And the reason why you want to understand this is because if you're staring at the server and babysitting it while you're going through these events, if you have no idea where the tipping point is, you won't have any idea whether you're hitting to it, whether you're heading towards a cliff, right? So you want to know where that cliff is. Okay, to understand that, you want to test a server up to 80% usage and then go over that, 120% usage. 80% is considered under load, 120% is obviously considered above limit. And you want to basically understand when it starts to do this, okay? It may not exactly look like that, but there will be a point where the requests per second kind of, or the hits per second basically start to plateau off, regardless of how many more users are hitting the site, okay? That means the server is doing as much as it can to service whoever's there, okay? Cool, all right. How am I doing for time? Cool. All right. So this is fun because you get to see a big blue graph. I'm gonna run this. All right, so as you can see here, this is a 4-core machine, right? It's running 100% all of the cores. And then you can see up here, it's running about 94 users and 100 of them are active. I've got this to run up to 152, okay? You can see on the side that there's actually, I actually have 5 scenarios. You can only see 3 of them at the moment. But as you're looking at it, in the middle, you get some pretty cool data. So you can see what's happening right now, what sort of response codes are you getting at the moment? So 200 codes is what you're looking for. If you start to see too many errors, then maybe there's something wrong with your script. As you can see, we've got about 10,000 users that have hit this in about the last 8 minutes. So that's a fair few people. And then of course you can see, like, as it goes up, you can see that kind of CPU graph ramping up in terms of usage. I want to see what happens to this. Let's see whether the response time has increased. Okay. No, it hasn't, which is amazing. Good job. Cool. So I guess at this point, I'm going to let that run a little bit longer. But what do you want to do once you've basically done this test and you've gotten the results and you're like, okay, I'm looking at it. You want to basically rinse and repeat. So you want to analyze these results. You want to change your assumptions, basically change the scenarios, try and figure out what's going to happen. And then you want to retest and you want to rinse and repeat. Okay, so it's pretty simple in terms of the actual workflow for this thing. All right. But it's super important when it comes to figuring out how your site is actually going to react during a viral event. Okay, so hopefully, like, through this kind of demonstration, I'm going to let it run a little bit longer and see what happens in the end, because it'll present me a nice little report. Okay, you've been able to see, like, the reason why load testing is important and some ways that you can do it yourself to kind of validate the capacity of your servers. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Oh, this is fun. So you can see here, right here, you can see that the requests have started to, as the users have gone up, the requests, which are hitting about 37, 38 requests per second, is really just peaked, okay? It's as much as it can do. So you understand sort of the concurrency or the actual throughput that it can handle, okay? You can see that the response time for the site is starting to really creep up. So right now we're sitting about 2,500 millisecond, which is about 6 times where it started, right? And so this is where you start having those like metrics where you're like, okay, I don't want it to go above, say, 2 seconds or 2 milliseconds. As you understand, per second of load time, you lose conversion rate. Above 6.5 seconds, your site basically loses half its visitors before it even reaches them. Okay? Cool. While this is running, does anyone have any questions? No. Ricky? Go for it.
It's a really basic question. Should you do this on, like, your normal... I can understand doing it for big e-commerce sites and that side of thing. Is it important on your normal standard small business site out there?
Depends on the event. So you never want to just do load testing purely as, I want to see what happens. There needs to be a target event. So even if you're a small business, let's say you're running, let's say you have the biggest event of the small business coming up. Like, for example, you're presenting at a conference, you're like a keynote speaker or something like that. Then that's actually an opportunity for you to understand, okay, well, how is my site going to interact? Do I want to be able to, like, maximize the amount of impact that I have by, sending that traffic or sending that those impressions through to your website? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone else? Yeah, go for it. This one, because this is open source and I'm just running it off my laptop, I know that my laptop, because I've tested this, peaks at about 200 virtual users, right? More powerful laptops, the more current gen laptops, let's say you're using like a, I don't know, one of those new 3950Xs, right? You should be able to pull out, 2,000 users, right? But if you're going to be reaching a lot bigger than that, and we're kind of lucky in Australia that because we have a small market, Ricky is telling me to get off the stage in 5 minutes, because we have a pretty small market, okay, we don't necessarily have to test for that much. So for example, if you are a local business and you sell nationally, are you really going to test for 4 million users? No, that's more than half the population, right? So you don't need as many resources. You would do that in the US because you actually have the market for that there, but here you don't necessarily need to do it. So it's actually quite cheap to run load tests in Australia. That being said, let's say you're global and you're going to get like a massive spike. So for example, let's say you're an e-commerce store, you sell globally, you're running a massive sort of sale, then you want to start thinking about, okay, what is the architecture of the actual test servers themselves, okay? Do you actually want to run a regular instance, or should you run like serverless technology that can kind of infinitely scale, you don't care, right? Maybe that's an option. And then that comes down to you testing the scenarios out, okay? Does that make sense? So it's like, what sort of response are you going to get on different types of architecture? Okay, you want to start small. You don't want to do the 2 million users test straight away. You just want to start with 200, see what happens. All right? Cool. Go for it.
When you say you need to talk to the people, your security people, and let them know you're going to do this.
Yes.
What about things like CDNs and Cloudflare and that sort of
Great question,
security?
actually. So you actually want to run the test as if it was real. So you do want to have all of your CDN and stuff in place. Typically, the reason why I'm like, don't care about Cloudflare is they have a massive amount of capacity to be able to handle this. So that's not too much of an issue. The reason why I say it's an issue to let your actual origin server provider know is that that typically doesn't have a massive amount of capacity. And they will have measures in place to stop that kind of thing happening. So for example, at WP Engine, we have rate limiting in place. I'm special, I know how to turn it off, but you probably won't be able to, right? And things like, for example, we also have a web application firewall. We have an intrusion detection system, okay? So you want to kind of turn all of those things off. You want to tell the support people to turn it off. Otherwise, when you run this, and it's kind of turned off now, you'll get an error rate of like 100%, okay? Because you'll be getting like 429s for rate limiting. You'll get 403s because they've blocked you, you know, because you'll be running it off a limited range of IPs, okay? Unless you decide to spin up servers all around the world, which is also an option for you. Okay? Also, it scares people like me when I see it happen. Yeah. Anything else? Cool. All right, well, thank you so much for attending this talk. Hopefully you guys found it valuable. I'm going to link this test data as well so you guys can have a dig around of it, okay? You can see that big spike there. Basically what happened is the server reset because it was like, can't handle this, dump everything, start again, okay? So if you see that sort of thing, maybe you want to have a talk to your server guys and say, hey, what happened to the server at that point? That sort of thing. But the idea of a load test is for you to be able to understand what is going to happen to your site when you start throwing a whole bunch of people at it and trying to basically pre-plan for that event so that you're prepared and you're not caught falling off the cliff. Cool.